Hello everyone. Today we are going to see what is constructor and what is method. In constructor we have different types of constructors. One is parameterized constructor and default constructor. See, we have two types of constructors. One is parameterized constructor and another one is a default constructor. Default constructor is nothing but unparameterized constructor. And similarly, we have two types of methods, parameterized methods and unparameterized methods, and one more category is there, that is method with return type and without return type. We will discuss one by one, and we are going to see what is method overloading and how one method will increases reusability of a code. Okay, we will start a session now. First of all, what is a constructor? uh, what is a constructor? A constructor is nothing but a method. It generally useful to initialize an object. In the name itself, it is suggesting that it is used to construct an object. It is used to construct an object. So that only it is called a constructor. Constructor will be called during the object creation. After calling that constructor only, initialization of that object will happen. And that constructor should have to follow the class name, and it doesn't have any explicit return type. It has an implicit return type. That is the main difference between constructor and a method. Let we discuss this constructor with an example. See, this is a object creation that I did here, and for creating this object we used a default constructor, and we didn't have constructor here because if we didn't create any constructor, JVM will take care about that and it will creates a default constructor, so that only we didn't get any error here. And suppose if we create any parameterized constructor here, it will show error message, compilation error, because if we have parameterized constructor, there is no scope for default constructor. JVM won't create default constructor. Let we see we will get compilation error or not. Constructor is nothing but a class name it uses, and we are about to create a parameterized constructor here. Sys out value is plus a. See, here we declared a parameterized constructor. This is nothing but a parameterized constructor. Parameterized constructor. Because of this parameterized constructor, JVM didn't create any default constructor. If we didn't have any constructors here, then it will create a default constructor. If we have any parameterized constructor, it won't create default constructor. So we should have to add an argument here. Let it be Java crackers. Now if we run this, that system.out value will print value is Java crackers. Yes, same as method overloading, we can do constructor overloading. Let we see how it will happen. I declared one parameterized constructor and one default constructor here, and this is a default constructor. This is nothing but constructor overloading. Let we see, if we create an object with default constructor, what it will happen. Now we are going to create an object with the default constructor. Default. See, now we created one constructor with one object with parameterized constructor and one object with default constructor. Now we will get first as value is Java crackers, and in console second line will be the this is a default constructor. See, value came like this, value is a Java crackers and this is a default constructor. Now we will see what is a method. A method is nothing but a block of code. It is used for performing a particular action, which is useful for code reusability. If suppose if developer develops a lot of code in single method itself, it may cause difficulty while reading that program. Readability will be difficult. So what developer will do, for particular part of code he will write separate methods, and if he want to access a particular block of code at any point of time, he can call that method and he can able to access that method data. Now we are going to declare few methods here. Public void read example. This is one method we have, and we will do overloading here by declaring two methods with same name. Here method overloading happened, and here we will give like read example and here we will write read example with parameterize method. Okay, if we want to call this read example, we should have to use objects. Here suppose we will call these methods with objects what we created already. Read example, this will call read example, that is a unparameterized method it will call. If we want to call parameterized method, we should have to pass some values for this read example, and that value is Java crackers. Now this one will call parameterized method and this one will call unparameterized method. Let we see this, how that values will come. See, here constructor will be called at the point of creating an object. See here, so that only it calls constructor here. So we got value is a Java crackers, and second one is a default we created an object with default constructor, so we got a message like this is a default constructor. And third one we call a unparameterized method, so it called read example. And third one is we called parameterized method, so it came with parameterized method. Now we got a point here, what is the main difference between constructor and object, sorry, constructor and method. Here constructor will be called while creating an object. It is nothing but it is useful for initializing an object, and method describes the behavior of an object. That is the main difference between constructor and an object. And one more thing is, constructor, it won't return anything explicitly, but method will return some values. See, here I gave void, so no need to return anything, because it implicitly it will return a default value, nothing but null. Now if we declare any method with some return type, let it be int, and it is a read example 1, it will ask for return type, so we should have to return here return 0. Here it has method has explicit return type, and constructor, it doesn't have any explicit return type, but it has an implicit return type. So it will return an instance of an object, so that only we can able to create an object here. That is the first and main difference between constructor and object. And one more difference is there. Constructor name should be the same as class name, but method name no need to be same as a class name. That is one more difference that we have. And here one more thing we have to remember, that is, and for void, that return type we didn't mention here, but JVM will automatically creates a return type for this one also. And one more main difference here is, constructor will be called implicitly. I mean, while creating an object, this constructor will be called, and method will be called explicitly. I mean, by using that object we have to call that method. And one more thing here we have to remember is, both constructor and method is same. What are the functionality we are trying to write in method, we can write that same thing in constructor also, but constructor didn't have any explicit return type. That's the difference and main difference that we have to remember. Yeah, thank you folks. I think now we got an idea about what is a constructor and what is a method. Thank you folks.